Good morning, everyone. Today, in this session, we are going to speak about the second chapter, that is Principles of Management. So, in the first chapter, I told you about what is management. Yeah, in the first chapter, I was telling you about what is management. So, management is getting, or it is an art of getting things done through and with the help of others in order to achieve the specific organizational objective. So in each and every business organization we will have certain objectives, so those objectives will have to be achieved. Okay, so when those objectives has to be achieved, there are chances that certain problems that may arise in the business which will reduce the impact, or which will reduce the efficiency of the business organization to easily achieve the objectives of the business organization. So the management thinkers, they have brought different principles. They have implemented these principles into various situations, that is various business situations, and then they have come up with solution for the problems that may arise in the business organization. So these principles which are brought by the management thinkers or writers are called as principles of management. So not just Henry Fayol or F.W. Taylor, we have many other management thinkers or experts, management experts, who have written or brought principles to the management. So the reason behind this principle is that the problems in the organization, so each and every organization, they come up with one or the other problems. So these problems will have to be reduced in order to achieve the objectives very easily. So the more the problem in the organization, it takes more time to achieve the objectives of business. So when we cut short those problems that arise in the business, the objectives can be achieved very easily. Okay, so in this chapter, the principles of management, so we'll go to the concept of principles of management. Okay, so managerial principle is is broad and general guideline for decision making and behavior. Okay, so when coming to an example, while deciding about a promotion of an employee, one manager can consider seniority, whereas the other may follow the principles of merit. It depends from one person, that is from one manager to another manager. Certain one manager may consider the seniority, and then he may take that into consideration while promoting an employee. On the other way around, the other manager, that is manager number two, he can select the person or promote a person on the basis of the principle of merit, that is on the basis of how a person is performing in the business organization. Okay, so it depends from one person, that is one manager, to another manager. So one may distinguish principles of management from those of pure science. One may distinguish principles of management from those of pure science. Management principles are not rigid. Like I told you in your previous classes, they are not rigid as principles of pure science. Yes, I told you in your previous class, that is in your previous chapter, like management or principles of management, it is not pure science. It is social science. It cannot be called as physical science. So as it is not a pure science, it is not rigid. The reason why it is not rigid is that the principles of management can be altered according to the requirement of the person who is using this principle into the management. Okay, so the reason why this principles of management is not a pure, or not a pure science, is that it deals with humans behavior. It deals with humans behavior, and thus are to be applied creatively given to the demands of the situation. So human behavior is never static, it keeps changing. Yes, and also technology. So this human situation, it changes every time, every now and then the human situation totally changes. So then all the principles have to be kept in a pace with these changes. So these changes will have to be kept in a pace, like as the situation keeps on changing, human behavior also changes, technology also changes, so these principles have to be kept on a pace with the change. So, for example, we can say that in the absence of information and communication technology, that is ICT, information and communication technology, a manager could oversee only a small workforce, that too within a narrow geographical space. The advent of ICT has expanded the capacity of the managers to preside over large business empires spread across the globe. Okay, so here it says that the principle should also be understood as being distinct from values. Values are something which are acceptable and desirable. They are moral connotations. Principles are basic truth or guidelines for behavior. Values are general rules for behavior of individuals in the society. So there is a difference between the values and also the principles. So principles should also be understood as being distinct from values. Values are general rules. Like I told you, values are general rules for behavior of individual in the society formed through common practice, whereas principles of management are formed after research in work situations which are technical in nature. Okay, so however, while practicing, what we do is like the principles of management values cannot be neglected, as businesses have to fulfill social and ethical responsibilities towards society. So the next concept is nature of principles of management. Okay, so this concept specifies regarding the principles, or how or what is the nature of principles of management. So the principles, they are general propositions which are applicable when certain conditions are present. Okay, so like I told in your previous classes, management can be said as both an art as well as a science. So why it can be called as an art is that it is creative. Each and every person cannot carry out the managerial activities in a same manner. When coming to management as a science, the management, just like the science, that is it may be a physics or chemistry or any other part of science, it is experimented. Yes, it is experimented and then brought into a conclusion, saying the management principles will work in such a manner, or management principles are said to be a solution for the problem that arise in the business organization. So these principles of management, they contribute towards the development of management both as a science and as an art. So derivation of these principles may be said to be a matter of science. Derivation of these principles may be said to be a matter of science, and their creative applications may be regarded as an art. So, like I told you, management as an art or management is totally creative. So a manager, when there are two managers in the business organization, the activity which is done by one manager or the decision which is taken by one manager will be totally different from the decision which is taken by the other. So there is no identical or the same kind of decision which are taken in the business organization. The managers, there are 99% chances that the managers may take different kinds of situation according to their mindset. So these principles are guidelines to action. They denote a cause and effect relationship. So while the functions of management, like your planning maybe, or your organizing, your staffing, your directing and controlling, are the actions to be taken while practicing management. So the principles of management or the principles help management or managers in the organization to take decisions while performing these functions. Okay, so there are certain nature. The first one is universal applicability. Okay, so when coming to universal applicability, it says that the principles of management are intended to apply to all types of organization. So it may be a business organization or a non-business organization. So if it is a business organization or a business organization, it may be a small business organization or a large business organization. It may be a public sector or a private sector. It may be manufacturing or a service sector. Okay, so however, the extent of applicability would vary with the nature of the organization. So it may be any kind of organization. There is no rule that it has to be only a business organization. It may be a business organization or a non-business organization. So each and every organization will have a management in order to look after the activities which are, or in order to carry out the activities in a smoother manner. Okay, so the business activity, the scale of operation, for examples, for greater productivity, work should be divided into small tasks and each employee should be trained to perform his specified job. So this principle is applicable to the government office where there is a diary or dispatch clerk whose job is to receive and send mail or documents. A data entry operator whose task is to input data on the computer. A peon and an officer, etc. So this principle is also applicable to a limited company where there are separate departments like production, finance, marketing and research and development, etc. Okay, so the extension of a division of work, however, may vary from case to case, that is from one business organization to the other business organization. Why? Because the situation of one business organization, so a situation of a large business organization and a small business organization is not the same. Okay, the working of these two business differ from one another. So when the organization is really big, that is when it has a greater productivity, like I told you, the work will have to be divided into small tasks. Okay, so each employee in the organization will have to be given with certain set of job or work which he has to perform. Okay, so in an organization when there are different jobs available, each and every employee in the organization will be given with certain set of jobs in which he is specialized. ಅವನು ಯಾವ ಕೆಲಸದಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ಪೆಷಲೈಸ್ಡ್ ಆಗಿರ್ತಾನೆ ಆ ಕೆಲಸವನ್ನ ಅವನಿಗೆ ಕೊಡೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಅವನ ಕೆಲಸ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಇನ್ನು ಈಸಿ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಲೈಕ್ ಐ ಟೋಲ್ಡ್ ಯು, ದೊಡ್ಡ ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ ಆರ್ಗನೈಸೇಷನ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ಸಣ್ಣ ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ ಆರ್ಗನೈಸೇಷನ್, ಲಾರ್ಜ್ ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ ಆರ್ಗನೈಸೇಷನ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಅ ಸ್ಮಾಲ್ ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ ಆರ್ಗನೈಸೇಷನ್ ವಿಲ್ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ different working ability and also its management or managerial activity like planning or directing or organizing or staffing, everything differs from one organization to another organization. So it is said that the principles of management is universally applicable, or it can be applied anywhere. It may be a business organization or a non-business organization. There is no rule that it has to be implemented only in a business organization and not in a non-business organization. The next second point is general guidelines. So like I told you previously, the principles of management, they are general guidelines to action, but they don't provide a ready-made solution. It is not a ready-made solution at all. It is just a general guideline regarding what a person can do in order to reduce the problem in the organization. Okay, so they act as a guideline and they are not a ready-made situation. So reason why it is said that it is not a ready-made situation is the person who is working with these principles, the person who is working with this principle is totally dynamic. The human being is totally dynamic. Okay, so his thoughts or views, it keeps changing every now and then. ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ ಒಬ್ಬ ಹ್ಯೂಮನ್ ಬೀಯಿಂಗ್ದು ಏನು ಥಾಟ್ಸ್ ಇದೆ ಅಥವಾ ಅವ್ನ ಮೈಂಡಲ್ಲಿ ಏನು ಓಡ್ತಾ ಇರುತ್ತೆ ಅದು ಒಬ್ಬನಿಗೂ ಇನ್ನೊಬ್ಬನಿಗೂ 100% ಡಿಫ್ರೆನ್ಸ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಏನಾಗ್ಬೋದು, when these principles are put into business organization, they may not work or they will not work as ready-made solution. They are just a guideline. So why it is said that it is not ready-made is that you cannot assure that it really gives a positive result. Why? Because the situation of business also will differ from one another. So you can use these principles of management as just a guideline and not as a ready-made solution. So this is so because real business situations are very complex and dynamic and are a result of many factors. Okay, so the next one is formed by practice and experimentation. So like I told you in the previous class, the principles of management are not brought overnight. All at once these principles of management are formed by experience and collective wisdom of manager as well as experimentation. Okay, so these principles are practiced, they are experimented, yes, they are experienced by the managers. So for example, it is the matter of common experience that discipline is indispensable for accomplishing any purpose. So this principle finds mention in management theory. Okay, so it is said that the principle is totally practiced, it is experimented. So for example, like I told you in your previous classes, when there is division of work, or when a work in the organization is divided in a proper manner, when one person does a big lot of work, it takes a large amount of time. You may find it difficult to finish that particular work in time. On the other hand, when the same work is divided among different employees in the organization, or when the same work is divided among different employees in the organization, what happens? The stress or the work which one person is doing gets divided among the other. For example, if there are 4 members, yes, the work gets divided to those 4 members, so it becomes easy for an organization to achieve the objective. So what to do is, like, the principles will be put into practice. They will experiment if the division of work in the organization will work or not, whether or not. Yes, so if it works, why? Because first they will experiment this into the business organization. They will check if those principle or those ideas of division of work in the organization is really working or not. So if it is not working, then it is understood that it does not provide any solution for the problem in the business organization. So if it really works in the business organization, obviously division of work will have to be divided. For example, at your home, when your mom is doing a particular work, yes, okay, so it takes a large amount of time, it consumes a huge amount of time. On the other hand, when you help your mom in your work, what happens? The amount of work your mom has to do reduces. Why? Because you are helping her. So the work which has to get over by next 1 hour gets over by next half an hour. 50% ಅಷ್ಟೇ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ನಿಮ್ಮ ಕೆಲಸ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. So these things will be implemented into the business organization, and they check that if this really works. So if it really works in the organization, then they'll be considered as the principles of management. Okay, so the next one is flexible. The principles of management are not rigid prescriptions which have to be absolutely followed. So there is no rule that the principles of management has to be followed how it is. Yes, there is no prescription saying that it has to be followed like how it is. So they are flexible and can be modified by manager. They can be flexible. Yes, they are really flexible and can be modified according to the situation of the business organization. Okay, so according to the situation or according to the demands in the business organization, a manager, he can change or bring certain alterations in the principles of management. So they give the manager enough discretion to do that. That is the principles of management. It gives all the rights or all the power to a manager to do the things according to his requirement. Okay, so the individual principles are like different tools serving different purposes. The management has to decide which tools to use under what circumstances. So the manager has to be very clear regarding which are the principles which has to be used during certain circumstances. There are different circumstances that will arise in the business organization. So when different circumstances arise in the business organization, a manager should have all the idea regarding what are the principles or which principles you will have to implement or use in the business organization in order to reduce or solve the problem available. Okay, the next one is mainly behavioral. So the management principles aims at influencing behavior of human beings. They aim at influencing behavior of human beings. So the human behavior is not static. It is not static. Like I told you, human behavior keeps changing. The behavior of one person is totally different from the behavior of the other. So therefore, the principles of management are mainly behavioral in nature. So it is not that these principles do not pertain to things and phenomenal to all. Okay, so it is just a matter of emphasis. So the principles, they enable a better understanding of the relationship between human and material resource in accomplishing organizational purpose. So for example, while planning the layout of a factory, orderliness would require that workflows are matched by flow of material and movement of man. Yes, understood? While planning the layout of a factory, orderliness would require that workflows are matched by flow of materials and movement of men. So there has to be a good relationship between a human and material resources in order to accomplish the organizational purpose. Or in order to achieve the organizational objective, there has to be a good relationship between material and human resource. So the next one is cause and effect relationship. Okay, so the principles of management, it establishes a relation between cause and effect, and also it says us regarding what would be the result if a particular principle is applied in a given situation. So there are different situations in the organizationally ಬೇರೆ situations ಇರುತ್ತೆ. So ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ, when a particular principle is applied into a business situation, what might be the effect of that particular implementation, what is the outcome of that particular implementation. So the principles are applied to different circumstances or different situations available in the business organization. So the principles of management is the cause and effect. So what is the cause? The implementation. And what is the effect or what is the outcome because of the implementation which is done by a manager. So ಒಂದು ಇಂಪ್ಲಿಮೆಂಟೇಷನ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಆದಮೇಲೆ ಅದರ ಔಟ್ಪುಟ್ ಏನು ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನು ನಮಗೆ ಈಸಿಯಾಗಿ ತಿಳ್ಕೋಬಹುದು. So however, it says that accurate cause and effect relationship cannot be established in the principles of management. So accurate and exact cause and effective relationship cannot be established, as these principles are mainly applicable to human behavior. Okay, so as they are applicable to human behavior, which are totally changing, or which obviously varies from one person to another person, the exact cause and effect relationship cannot be provided. Okay, the next one is contingent. Okay, the application of principles of management is contingent or dependent upon the prevailing situation at a particular point of time. They are contingent. It depends upon the prevailing situation at a particular point of time. Okay, so these can be changed as per the requirements. It can be changed as per the requirements of the business, as per the requirement of the business. For example, employee deserve fair and just remuneration, but what is just a fair is determined by multiple factors. Employee requires a fair remuneration or fair and just remuneration, but what does this just and fair remuneration mean? So this has to be determined with the help of multiple factors. So they include, what are the things which can be included while thinking about or while deciding about the fair and just remuneration? One is the contribution of employee in the organization. Yes, the contribution of employee. So how much or to what extent he is what contributing to the organization, towards the organization. The next one is the paying capacity of the employer. Yeah, the paying capacity of the employer. So the employee can be paid by the employer only to the extent which is possible by a employer. ಒಬ್ಬ ಎಂಪ್ಲಾಯರ್ಗೆ ಎಷ್ಟನ್ನ ಪೇ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಷ್ಟನ್ನ ಮಾತ್ರ ಪೇ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗೋದು. ಯಾವುದೇ ಕಾರಣಕ್ಕೆ ಅವನ ಕೆಪಾಸಿಟಿ ಏನಿದೆ, ಅವನ ಪೇಯಿಂಗ್ ಕೆಪಾಸಿಟಿ ಏನಿದೆ ಅದಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಪೇ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಥಿಂಗ್ ವಿಚ್ ಹ್ಯಾಸ್ ಟು ಬಿ ಟೇಕನ್ ಇನ್ ಟು ಕನ್ಸಿಡರೇಷನ್ ಇಸ್ ದಿ ಕಾಂಟ್ರಿಬ್ಯೂಷನ್ ವಿಚ್ ಇಸ್ ಪ್ರೊವೈಡೆಡ್ ಬೈ ದಿ ಎಂಪ್ಲಾಯ್ ಟುವರ್ಡ್ಸ್ ದಿ ಆರ್ಗನೈಸೇಷನ್. ದಿ ಪೇಯಿಂಗ್ ಕೆಪಾಸಿಟಿ ಆಫ್ ಎಂಪ್ಲಾಯರ್. Yes, what is the paying capacity of the employer? And also one more thing which you can take into consideration is the prevailing wage rate for occupation under consideration. So what is the prevailing wage rate? Okay, so these can be changed as per the requirement. So these can be changed as per the requirement. So they say that the management principles are not absolute. They are not absolute. So these can be applied, or sorry, this cannot be applied blindly in all situations and in all organizations equally. So they are not absolute. They are not absolute. So as they are not absolute, these cannot be applied blindly in all situations and in all organizations equally. Okay, so all the organization, ಎಲ್ಲ ಆರ್ಗನೈಸೇಷನ್ ಈಕ್ವಲ್ ಆಗಿ ಒಂದೇ ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಅದನ್ನ ಇಂಪ್ಲಿಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗಕ್ಕಿಲ್ಲ, ಅಥವಾ ಅದನ್ನ ಬ್ಲೈಂಡ್ ಆಗಿ ನಮಗೆ ಪಿಕ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಅದನ್ನ ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ಗೆ ಇಂಪ್ಲಿಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕಾಗಿಲ್ಲ. ವೈ? ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಈಚ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಎವ್ರಿ ಪ್ರಿನ್ಸಿಪಲ್ ವರ್ಕ್ಸ್ ಇನ್ ಇಟ್ಸ್ own way and in its own manner. ಅದರದೇ ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಅದು ವರ್ಕ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ it differs from one principle to another. So obviously you can't apply any principles blindly into the organization.